Good evening, crafting friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Simply Stamping Sunday. I'm so happy you're able to join me tonight, whether you're joining me on the live or watching the replay on Facebook, or of course even just joining on my YouTube channel. I appreciate you being part of my crafting world. So this is Simply Stamping Sunday, and as you know, if you've been following this series that I do on Sunday nights, I only use ink, paper, and stamps. So I'm going to show you a bundle tonight that I'm using, but I do want to reiterate that I'll just be using the stamps tonight. All right, so I am starting the month of August a little early. I've been working on the Changing Leaves stamp set, and oh my goodness, I just love this so much that I decided to start it a week early. So for the month of August and the last week of July, we'll be using the Changing Leaves stamp set. Now, this is part of an amazing bundle. It's a hybrid bundle because it has dies and it also has an embossing folder. And the embossing folder also cuts out the embossed images. So it's pretty cool. So this is the embossing folder. Not sure how well I think you can see that pretty well. What it will do, this is what you'll see once you've embossed a piece of paper. But we have the dies, and the first set, these dies here we have for the greetings. We have some different leaves that you can die cut, but you also can place this folder. Now let me just get it in the right spot, right like this, into the embossing folder. You can then emboss and cut out. So it is pretty cool how you can line this all up and make it work. So I did want to show you that, but of course you'd have to have a Stampin' Cut embossing machine or some kind of embossing machine. Let me just put these to the side. We are going to be using, as I said, this Changing Leaves stamp set. It is a photopolymer stamp set. There are 8 stamps in it. There are 3 different leaves, and there are 2, 4, 5 different sentiments that you can use. You are amazing in every single way. I couldn't have done it without you. Here for you. Thank you. A little note to brighten your day. We're going to be making 3 cards tonight, and the 3 cards are going to be using the same stamp, pretty much the same size paper, the same color, but they're going to be all different. So for this first week of Simply Stamping Sunday. Okay, for our first card, this is the card we're going to be making. This is the image we're going to be using on every single card tonight, this leaf here. And I'm going to be showing you some different ways that we're going to put it together. So for this project, you're going to need a piece of 8.5 by 5.5 basic white cardstock. You're going to also need a piece of 3 3/4 by 5 just basic white cardstock. This is the thick cardstock for the card base, and then this is the regular basic white cardstock. And then you're going to need a piece of Misty Moonlight that's just like 1/8 of an inch bigger. So it is, let's see, I said 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And that will be the measurement for the first 2 cards. It's going to be a little different for the last card. Then I'm just using a scrap of the Misty Moonlight and a scrap of the basic white cardstock to do the greeting. So let's get started. So this is going to be super easy tonight because we're using all of the same materials for each card. So I'm just going to fold my piece of basic white cardstock in half. This is all that I'm going to need. And then I'm going to do my stamping on these 2 pieces. So we're starting with, for the greeting, the "You are amazing in every single way." So I'm going to open up my Misty Moonlight stamp pad. I love blues, I love purples, and I love red. So this is one of my favorite blues in our Stampin' Up! Colors. Oops, did not press all the way down, so let's do that again. There we go. Much better. And for this stamp, since it's a larger stamp, I like to turn the stamp upside down and use my ink pad to ink it up. And then we'll stamp that right in the center of this piece. There we go. Doesn't it stamp a beautiful image? I just love this. So we'll close this up. And then we just need to start mounting. These cards are very easy. Just want to make sure this is dry before I turn it upside down and put some adhesive on the back. I had my first class that I did yesterday with another demonstrator. I haven't done a class in so long, and we had so much fun. It was a Christmas in July class, and everyone loved the projects and had a blast. And we are now planning what we're calling a Super Saturday in August. It's going to be August 24th. The classes will be available on a to-go version, and will be available as in-person. And what a Super Saturday is we are going to offer 4 classes during the day. And just get my dimensionals. And the 4 classes, you can take 1 of them, 2 of them, 3 of them, or 4 of them. We're going to be there all day. And if you decide to take all 4 of them, the Hearts and Hugs class is going to be 50% off. So there's a little incentive to take all 4 classes. But the classes are going to be great. And I'll be sharing them in a video in a week or so that you get an idea of what we're doing. But we had a great planning session today. Okay, so I've attached this to the front of the cardstock, and I'm just going to add our sentiment now. There we go, and our first card is all done. Let's go to card number 2. Put those aside. So for this one, again, I'm using the same measurements of paper, though I'm not mounting this one. Instead, I'm using a piece of Designer Series paper for the background of it. And I'm using a different sentiment, a little note to brighten your day. So let's do the stamping again. The only difference in the supplies is that you only need a small scrap of the Misty Moonlight, and then from the Neutrals Designer Series paper, I'm using the Misty Moonlight stripes. On the back side is the variety of plants and flowers, but I'm using this side that I'm going to put under our image. So let's do our stamping first. I'll fold this piece of cardstock to just have it ready to go. And again, we're using the Misty Moonlight ink. And I am going to grab that stamp, ink it up, and I'm going to stamp this right in the middle, and then I'm going to cut this down. It is sometimes easier when you have a small stamp like this. The lettering is so tiny. Show you what I mean, that it's easier to cut it down afterwards than during. And then we're going to take this piece and stamp our leaf again. This week's theme is to just make 4 very similar cards that are a little bit different. So let's just go up here and go into the center of the basic white cardstock. There we go, another beautifully stamped image. It is very easy to stamp with this stamp set I have found. And I love that the images are bold and bright. So with this card, let's start with just getting my paper trimmer out, and we'll just trim this down so it is more the size. This piece of white will fit the stamp set a little more. And then we just need a little bit off the top. There we go. So I'm doing all of the sentiments the same way, so it will fit onto that piece of Misty Moonlight nicely. So I'm just going to put a strip of seal adhesive down the middle, and then I'll just line this up a little bit. There we go. Okay, so that piece is all set. Now the next thing that we're going to do is just add some adhesive to the Designer Series paper. And this is just going to go into the middle of the piece of cardstock. All right, we are going to take some dimensionals and attach this piece with those. And take those backings off. So those of you who are watching the live, please make sure you say hello in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. I am not good at watching the comments while I am making the video, so just so you know that. Then we'll just add our dimensionals to our sentiment and add this to the front of the card, and our second card is done. So 2 very, very similar cards, but a little bit different. Now we're going to take elements of both of these cards and put them all together into one card. So let's put these down and let's take a look at the next card we're going to make. Like I said, for this week we're doing all the same color combination, and we're going to do all the same stamped images except for the sentiment. Okay, let's get started on this one. So for this one, I cut the white paper a little smaller than the other ones. So I have 2 pieces of Misty Moonlight Cardstock. They measure 3/4 of an inch by 5. I have my scraps to do my sentiment on. I have the same size piece of paper here that measures 4 1/4 by 3, so you can get 2 of these out. And for my basic white cardstock, it is 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. This is 1/8 of an inch bigger, so it's 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And then, of course, I have a piece of basic white thick that measures 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. Remember, at the end of the video, I will put all the dimensions in the comments, and I will also put it into the description on my YouTube channel, so you can always find the dimensions. Okay, let's do our stamping first. So for this one, I am going to use the thank you stamp for our sentiment. always can use thank you cards. There we go. Put that aside. I will be trimming that as well. And then again, I'm going to turn my stamp over and use the ink pad to color it in. And again, this piece is smaller, but it's still, you still can center the stamp on it. There we go. Now let's put this card together. So we'll let that dry. I'm going to start by adding a little bit of a strip. I'm going to be cutting this off, but instead of cutting a whole piece of the Misty Moonlight cardstock to go under this to layer it on, since I'm only going to be layering it at the top and the bottom, I cut these strips. So what I'm going to do is just add a strip of adhesive right across the top, and then I am going to line this up to the amount of Misty Moonlight that I want bordered, and then I will use my paper snips that I just had. Looking where I stuck them. It's obviously not right here. Oh, right here. And then I'm just going to cut off the edge, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This saves cardstock, but it also gives, so I just actually used scraps from when I was cutting the Misty Moonlight for the other cards, and this saves on some of the bulk, and it also saves cardstock. So I still have a piece that looks layered on the ends that I want to have it layered. All right, this piece is going to go onto the Misty Moonlight. And again, it's just 1/8 of an inch bigger, so it just barely has a border. I'm going to get my paper trimmer out again. I don't have to cut off much of this, but again, stamping perfectly straight on a little tiny piece of paper is sometimes challenging, so I will often do this to just give me a little wiggle room to make sure I get it stamped the way I want it to be stamped. There we go. And then this is going to go on this piece of Misty Moonlight, just like we have done on the other ones. So I'm just going to add some snail, line this up, and there we have our other sentiment. Okay, now we can start putting the card together. There we go, so that's on the front like it was on the other one. I will add dimensionals to pop this up. I love dimensionals. They are probably the product that I use the most. Other than my Stampin' Seal, of course, but I just love adding dimension to a card. All right, more dimensionals. So this card took a little bit of the other two cards and put it all together. So this one I'm going to have this more in the lower right hand corner. So this is what this card looks like. So the 3 cards we have made tonight on our first week with changing leaves. We're going to have fun with this. I'm going to show you some fun techniques, and I think you'll enjoy it. So the first card we made was just using a basic layout and adding that Misty Moonlight on the back, in the background. Then the second card I made didn't have that background, but had some designer series paper peeking out. And the third card combined both of those elements, had the designer series paper, had it mounted on some Misty Moonlight, had the white mounted on Misty Moonlight, and put up with dimensionals. And we didn't use the dimensionals in that first card. So you can see how you can take one stamp using the same colors, using the same stamp set, but just changing it up just a little bit can give you 3 distinctly different cards. So I hope you enjoyed today's edition of Simply Stamping Sunday. I will be back next week for the second installment with Changing Leaves, and I will be using the Changing Leaves stamp set for the whole month of August, and we'll be changing the looks of all of our cards for as August goes along and as we start getting closer to fall. And of course, I'll be back Friday night for another edition of Fun Fold Friday. And I have a really fun fold for you this week. It's actually a fold I made for my brother's birthday card. So it's a special card indeed. So thank you for joining me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you Friday night on Fun Fold Friday. Good night, everyone. I hope you have a great week.